Hello everybody and welcome back to LAB. I'm doing something a little bit different today because it was Mental Health Awareness Week last week, and although the Awareness Week is over, the issues still live on, and from being heavily present on social media last week, it really showed me what an issue mental health is, particularly in the legal profession, and it's something that I wanted to talk to you about today to try and help you be a little bit more mentally prepared and deal with the stressful environment that you're in at the moment and are likely to be in when you start your training contract and you embark on your legal career. So an article that I read from the Junior Lawyers Division, which I will link at the end, actually reported that on a survey that they did recently, 82% of people who took part in the survey reported that they were suffering with stress. And I can absolutely believe this because I suffer with stress on occasion, and so do so many people that I work with. But one of the issues with lawyers in particular is that nobody ever talks about it. And I think that this is partly to do with the competitive atmosphere that you're in as a lawyer, and some people can think of it as almost showing a sign of weakness if you say that you're suffering with stress or you're not coping, and nobody wants to show any sign of weaknesses amongst their peers or to their managers or the people around them. And this is such a misnomer because everybody is suffering with this, and if you speak to anybody about it, they will tell you that they are feeling exactly the same way. And I think so many people feel embarrassed or ashamed or guilty about having these feelings when you really shouldn't, because everybody is feeling or has felt the same as you at some point during their careers. So it's really important that you don't feel bad about feeling stressed or anxious or depressed or negative at times, because everybody feels exactly the same way. Another article that I read, which I will also link, actually showed that there is a wellbeing task force being put into place, or has been put into place, specifically for the legal profession, which includes a panel of people from all kinds of aspects of the legal profession: the SRA, the Law Society, the Bar Council, and various other legal bodies, who have come up with the idea that law students actually need more training for what they termed emotional competence. And I think this phrase is brilliant because the way the process of training contracts is assessed at the moment does not factor in emotional preparation for the job. It is very focused around, are you academically strong? Are you able to deal with people? Can you communicate? Can you problem solve? Can you do all of these things? But none of those things answer the question of, can you actually cope with this job? And I wouldn't be surprised if going forward, because of all of this awareness that's being raised, particularly in relation to the legal profession, that the assessment process actually changes to incorporate questions which ask about this. So questions like, how do you deal with stress, or situational tasks that basically figure out whether you have a strategy for dealing with stress and whether you can cope with being in this job. And I wanted to do this video today just to talk through a couple of ways of how I manage my stress that I can hopefully impart onto you and that will help you as well. So I am very fortunate in that I actually work with one of my best friends, and a lot of my very close friends also work in the legal profession. And one thing that I do probably at least once a week is just let off steam to them completely. So I talk about my life, my job, how stressful it is, how are we supposed to cope with all of these things. And as a law student and as a trainee and a junior lawyer, you will be expected to do things that are unfair, unreasonable, and seem damn right impossible at times. And that is the nature of the job that you're in. But actually, just talking about these things with someone who knows exactly what you're going through and who feels exactly the same way, and you can bounce off each other and just hear them say, you know what, you're exactly right. It is ridiculous, the things that we're being asked to do. The system is fundamentally flawed. How are we supposed to cope with this? It's not going to change what you actually have to do, but actually just having that person to bounce off will make an incredible difference to how you feel about it, and you will actually feel an amazing sense of stress relief and an ability to deal with all of these things, because you know it's just not you, it's everybody, and that makes it so much easier to cope with. So one recommendation is make sure that you have people close to you who you can trust, that you talk to on a regular basis about how you're feeling, and you will feel so much better about it. The second thing, which I always make time to do, is take complete breaks from the process. And I don't mean just half an hour for a cup of tea here and there, but proper week-long or long weekend breaks where you take yourself completely out of the situation. You go abroad, you spend time with your family, or you spend time with people who just have no idea what you do and no involvement in your day-to-day life and day-to-day struggles, because what this will do is it will make you see that there is actually so much more to life than what you are dealing with, because you are spending so much time potentially planning your work, revising, learning, applying for training contracts, maybe you have a job to hold down as well, or family commitments at home, that all of this can just spiral out of control and it can get on top of you and you don't know how to deal with it. So just having that time out to really take a break from all of that is so important, and you'll come back with a completely new and fresh perspective, which will make you stronger and more able to deal with all of these things. So make sure you have breaks. And another thing to think about is make sure you recognise when you need to engage in these kind of stress management techniques. So know your own mind and know your own feelings really well and recognise the symptoms of stress. So whether it's not sleeping, or whether you have certain things that you do when you're stressed, you know, do you scratch, do you bite your nails? What are these things that show that you are suffering with stress and you really need to do some stress management time? So make sure you recognise these signs and you engage in these things where you can and where you need to, and you will find that you are much more able to deal with the stressfulness of the situation. If you are doing these things and you're still finding that you are not coping, you're still feeling stressed, depressed, anxious, then consider speaking to somebody else about it. So whether it's your tutor at uni or whether it's your line manager, if you are a trainee or junior lawyer, about how you can actually manage these and whether some things can be taken off you or reprioritised or your workload reorganised to try and help you manage these symptoms of stress. Because one of the things that you will probably find is that actually these things that you think are life or death important are actually not that life and death important, and you can put some things aside to focus on other things, and sometimes you just need somebody in a more senior position just to make you recognise that, and you will not be judged for it, you will not be seen as weak, because I guarantee you they will have been in exactly the same position as you and understand what you're going through and want to help you as best as possible. So the overwhelming piece of advice that I want to give to you is do not be afraid to talk about this stuff, because everybody is in the same position, everybody feels the same as you, and we have to talk about these things, otherwise a stigma becomes attached to it and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and people are getting more and more stressed, and things happen that are terrible that could have been so easily avoided by just talking about it. So please, for me and for the legal profession and for you, make sure you talk about these issues and you are managing your stress and you have a strategy for doing it that doesn't just involve going, well, I just have to do it, so I just have to move on and cope with this stress somehow. Actually have a strategy for doing it that involves a couple of those things that I've just said, or whatever works for you. And this should really help to manage your stress levels going forward. Okay, I don't want to ramble on for too long, so that's all I really wanted to say about that, and I hope that it's helped you somewhat to know that everybody is feeling stress and it's not just you. And if you are interested in learning more about this, I will link a couple of articles at the end, and there's also an association called Law Care who is designed specifically for lawyers who are suffering with these issues. And there's people you can talk to on there, there's tips for managing stress, there's testimonials for other lawyers. I will link them at the end as well, so you can have a look at what they're doing. Until then, I will leave you with good vibes, and I will see you in my video next week. Take care, guys.